Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Today. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning. I'm Maufe Ogun Yusuf. Welcome.
In Dansadao town, Maru, local government area of Zamfara state, they attacked a state lawmaker over allegations of poor performance and abandonment of his constituents. But the lawmaker, who is Kabiru Mikailu, represents Maru South constituency in the State House of Assembly. He was assaulted by residents, as you can see there. And incidentally, it turned out that he was accompanying the governor. What they said, it was a historic visit to the troubled community. Now, angry residents accused the lawmaker of neglecting the area since his election, saying that he failed to visit the community or engage with them during major events. Some residents claim that the lawmaker neither attended Salah festivities in the town nor visited to commiserate with families affected by repeated bandit attacks in the area.
Oh, quite a situation on the ground, Chamberlain, yep. And it would seem that not even the fact that he, I want to say, brought the biggest of the fishes as far as their community or their state is concerned. No, they
know what they want.
They know what they want, and they know how they want it. This is a member of the State House of Assembly. I think that is very important to underline, because a number of people have since given up on state houses of assembly. They believe that they are more or less, I don't know if we say that the National Assembly is rubber stamp. What will we call the State House of Assembly? They are more or less extensions of the executive arm of government. And as such, a lot of people do not, they don't, for want of a better word, rate them, more or less. But clearly, the people of Zamfara had expectations of this particular legislature, and he certainly failed them. And the fact that he finally came back and came in company of the governor did not rescue him from their wrath. They singled him out and they attacked him. Because how do you explain that, he was with the governor? I was looking and I saw policemen.
Yeah, they were there. They were
clearly trying to save, and I was like, oh, I thought there was an order for the withdrawal of
They intervened to see how they can calm the place
down.
Well, he's a state governor, so I think he's
so there was an order for, so I was looking to see, how it was that a legislator had policemen that were that many. Then it was when you read that statement, it made sense that, he was in the company of the governor. And I was looking at the vehicle, should the state legislator's vehicle be this big? There are a lot of things, but clearly this now explains that, he was in company of the governor, and clearly the people were unhappy with his performance and how he had chosen to represent them, and they took matters into their hands. Now, while I, cannot condone mob violence and say that violence is allowed, because if there were no security intervention, Chamberlain, this man might not have made it out alive. I doubt very strongly that he would leave this place alive.
Very much likely.
And that's not exactly what we're looking forward to. Because if people are unhappy with their legislators, what I would think they will do is that they will vote with their feet. They would, not return such individuals in future. That's what should happen. Whilst they're also free to express their displeasure, maybe using their words and stuff. But clearly, these people could not wait. I'm unsure what exactly would have transpired, because clearly he was coming out of an event. So did
the governor was going to receive chief sensei title?
Yeah, did he say something there? Did he,
what could
you know,
say?
do
They
something
already know his track record.
Annoyed them even further? You know, like, we're pitying you because you're in the company of the governor, and then maybe he goes and says something else out of turn. The entire picture is very, very unclear. But what we do know is that this is a member of the State House of Assembly, and the people clearly have very high expectations of this legislator, which he has not met. So I think that they have been able to express themselves very clearly, and I think it serves as a warning.
Yeah.
A warning, because I think there was a time when the governor was a former governor, Governor Rotimi Amechi, who had said that one of the reasons why politicians behave as they do is because the people have not yet started stoning them. And then maybe if they started stoning them, you know, people will learn to comport themselves and do what it is that they're supposed to do while in public office.
Are they heeding that advice?
Maybe the people have started heeding the advice. I don't know. But this is what we're now seeing, Chamberlain. And whilst we will not say that this is an ideal example, I think that people, especially those in public office, need to take heed. If demands can be made of members of the State House of Assembly, which oftentimes get overlooked in terms of what roles they are supposed to play in the scheme of things in the state government, then you can imagine those for whom they have higher expectations who do not fulfill those expectations.
Well, maybe in a bit to calm frayed nerves, the governor then ordered some reconstruction and rehabilitation of the general hospital in that area, and then construction of over, I think they said it was a 90-kilometer road also in that community. So it's clear, if you are a member of the House, or if you're representing the people at any level, whether you're a councillor, state assembly lawmaker, federal lawmaker, even a governor, you're not immune to people's comments, especially if and when these tax laws kick in next year or next month. There will be a lot of scrutiny on politicians, because nobody will want any of their funds or taxpayers' money. They don't want to see you just acting as though it's business as usual. Because for those who will be paying these taxes, it's business unusual. So it should be the same thing for you lots out there. So we're going to keep our eyes on all of you. And speaking about states, yesterday, Nigerian Governors Forum had a meeting, they always do once in a while, and they said they had received some briefing from the office of the NSA to heighten security. I don't know what's going on. Do you have any updates on, I think, I don't know if you try, I had read that they had said they should go on and do something about improving security in their states. I know that the governors had met across board, both up north and down south, to ensure that they have some sort of security, even though they have some form of security operation or the other in every state, whether it's traffic bases, religious, they do have all of those things. But now they want something formal that they can ascribe or call police, state police, as a matter of fact. So whether it's forest guard, whichever one, they are I wonder what they're waiting for. Do they need any telling in terms of what they need to do and how they need to proceed with this?
Chamberlain, the debate has gone on for too long, for way too long. The talk has gone on for way too long. While it is that, you know, and I think only recently the National Economic Council, interestingly in this instance, it was presided over by the president. The president joined the meeting, more or less. Maybe the vice president was still presiding, I don't know, but he was in that particular meeting where it was agreed that the governors needed to go around the different police formations, the different police training schools across the length and breadth of the country. Because even if you want your own state police, they're going to be trained somewhere. And most likely they're going to be dependent on the already existing federal institutions. Now, the first one we have seen so far was a visit done by governors of the Northwest who visited the police training institution in Kaduna. And Chamberlain, what they saw was an institution in a really sorry state, which brings to mind the fact that sometimes we are too quick to jump, you know, into ad hoc solutions. Yes, it is true that insecurity is biting us right now, and we do need solutions, but it speaks to years of neglect for, current institutions. Why a number of people will say, well, you can't blame the state governors. They were federal institutions all of the time. But these institutions are situated in states. And if an institution is in your state, even though it's a federal institution, and you can see that it is actively degenerating, I don't think that there's anything I would have stopped, state governors from raising this matter beforehand. Because now we want to, establish state police outfits, and we're now looking for, where we're going to train them, and we see that, what we currently have are in decrepit situations. Well, enough of the talking. The governors met yesterday, received a briefing from the National Security Advisor, as you highlighted. I think what was very disappointing about that meeting was that they refused to take questions. I do not understand how it is that governors will do a meeting well into the night on very important issues. Journalists have waited up all night to try and cover this event. I mean, colleagues who covered this, they don't get home until sometimes 2 a.m. Because they're trying to bring this. And then all you do is give them a statement or read out a statement, and you think that is sufficient when there are burning issues on the ground. We still have 156 students in Niger State still in captivity. It is unclear what the situation is with those people. And security, interestingly, was on the front burner. These new tax laws, which have now, people are expecting will be implemented by the 1st, and we're beginning to see that there are discrepancies in terms of what was gazetted and what was passed by the chambers of the National Assembly. There are questions to be asked. How is it that people who are supposed to be accountable at all times, to the fourth estate of the realm, as well as the people who elected them, say, oh no, all we're going to do is read a statement and take no questions? It continues to baffle me.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no point in playing that tape, because I mean, we can as well send you the statement so the viewers can see it online, because if you don't, because they represent the people. The people want to know. Investors are listening, they're watching, they want to know what is government's position about certain things, so they know how to proceed. But then let's move on to this other matter, because yesterday, a coalition of opposition parties operating under the banner of the Nigeria Opposition Movement, they're calling on the President, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, to immediately suspend the implementation of the proposed tax regime. The group argues that the new tax laws are exploitative and designed to favor a small elite rather than ease the burden on ordinary Nigerians. But we will be joined by our guest, who we'll talk about in just a moment. But now, let's let you listen to what transpired yesterday, and we'll take it from there.
This is a gathering of members of various opposition parties in Nigeria, including members of the People's Democratic Party, Action Democratic Congress, Labour Party, amongst others.
Thank you very much. We need another family voice here.
They've converged under the aegis of the Nigeria Opposition Movement, and their core focus is to call on the federal government to suspend the implementation of the new tax laws, which is expected to take effect from January 2026.
Tinubu administration.
Citing some of the clauses of the 2025 tax law, the spokesperson of the group alleges that the new tax law is exploitative and does not cater to the needs of ordinary Nigerians.
President Tinubu is not focused on governance, he's focused on brazen exploitation. We reject this task because the timing is cruel and the logic is irrational. Fuel subsidy removal, Naira collapse, food inflation, and rising electricity tariffs have already pushed households and small business to the edge.
In the instance where their demands are not met, the group discloses their next line of action.
Every resistance that is within the ambit of the law will be explored. Every resistance that is constitutional.
Other members of the group also take turns to call on the government of the day to focus on delivering good governance.
They promised that if they remove the subsidy, they would have money enough to provide infrastructure for us. Today, ASU is going on strike because nothing is provided for them, signifying the possible collapse of the educational system. Today, the resident doctors are proceeding on strike. The only thing we are pleading with Nigerians is that if they don't rise up to save our democracy, the next thing that will collapse is democracy.
The group calls for support from citizens to sign a petition on the subject using the website www.jop.ng. Furthermore, they promise to resist any policy that punishes the poor in the society. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
Joining us to unpack the issues, the politics, and the implications for Nigerians, we've got the former Minister of Sports, Mr. Solomon Dalong. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Mr. Chamberlain, thank you very much for this opportunity again.
Yes. So, that briefing that happened yesterday, before we get to the issues, could you give us an idea of the background of those who were there? Is it a political party or individuals who come together as a movement? What's the nomenclature of that gathering?
Well, maybe what is the chemistry of that gathering? It's a gathering of Nigerians who are concerned about, the state of the nation, governance, and politics. And we felt that we cannot maintain silence in the face of all these things that are happening, because as Edmund Burke rightly said, all it takes for evil to flourish is for good people to do nothing about it. And so we have watched the country, derail into the abyss, politically, economically, even spiritually. Nigerians are depressed. Nigerians are frustrated. And we felt that no, history will not judge us right, knowing too well and seeing clearly the direction this administration is driving this country, for us to fold our arms and pretend that, oh, maybe I'm not affected, or I'm not suffering it as much as other Nigerians, so we should be quiet. That is the motivation.
So when the group, how did it happen? Did the group come together, or it was individual observations? Because there was that mention about what was gazetted is not the same thing that was passed by the National Assembly. How did it come to that conclusion? It
all started when some of us took the initiative of reaching out to others. What is happening in this country, are you comfortable with it? And then that was how we got connected, and we discovered that, oh, there are so many people out there that are thinking the way we are. So we said, okay, if that's the issue, why not come together and review the state of the nation? And so we started our meetings and honestly reviewed the state of the nation. And the group is made up of people from almost all the political parties. There are APC members in that group. There are the PDP that is struggling with survival also in the group. SDP, ADC, ABGA. So it's a conglomeration of people with common interests. The country. Do we allow the country continue the way it is? So for now, is the group here to stay, or what? In fact, that was one of the issues we raised before we even continued. Whether we were just going to be like Jew, the normal political Jew in Nigeria, that will just come up, raise an issue and fizzle up. And we said no. we decided on comprehensive methods of dealing with the issue, and we're going to be even engaging the government. We're going to be even holding the government accountable. We'll deploy so many legitimate actions, including mass action, to mobilize Nigerians to hold this government to account, which is a civic responsibility of every Nigerian. Indeed.
Clearly, every Nigerian needs to be up and doing in terms of occupying their seats as citizens, responsible citizens of this country. But I'm a little curious as to some of the issues that you have raised, because prominent amongst them is this issue of tax. And just before that time, you know, some people will say, okay, well, the issue of subsidy removal was raised. The fact that we've also had the floating of the naira, so to speak, all of which has, you know, altered the calculations of many Nigerians and left a lot of Nigerians much, much poorer than they used to be. Let's not even go to inflation rates and what have you, which they also believe is some form of taxation. In your own estimation, because I know that this conversation around subsidy removal has been on for a very long time. A lot of people were, you know, told that this was what we needed. This was the pain we needed to go through before we could actually begin to see light at the end of the tunnel. For you, as somebody who is also very aware of the workings of government, having been a government official yourself, what are your thoughts with regards to when governments decide to implement policies that are going to be painful, but really do not have any end date in sight? Government cannot say that, oh, give it 3 years, 4 years, this is when it's going to end. What exactly do you think needs to be happening within that period of transition when the policy is done and, you know, while the people are going through the motions, pending whenever it is that there ought to be light at the end of the tunnel?
The admission by this administration that withdrawal of fuel subsidy was the only option. It's a demonstration of poverty of ideas and knowledge. Because in life there are so many alternatives. And so for them to single out the issue also define the vested interest they have in the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy. So from day one...
You didn't support that?
I don't even see it as that which was necessary at that point in time. Because if we know as a fact that the subsidy regime has been investigated by the National Assembly, the fraud has been established, companies were inducted, meaning that the problem is not even the withdrawal of subsidy, but the subsidy management itself. And this government was not interested in holding those who had defrauded this country many years, but chose to offer a sanctuary for them with a sweeping statement. Subsidy has been withdrawn. For me, it's an endorsement of fraud. So I didn't, from the beginning, accept the fact that subsidy withdrawal was an issue. Yet, granted, it has been done. It was done in a manner that demonstrated again that the president at that time does not even understand the workings of the government and the complex nature of the country called Nigeria. He needed consultation. As at that time he made the statement, there was no government. It was only the president and the vice that has been sworn in, and that wasn't government. A government means the cabinet, advisors, policymakers consulted all together on a decision like that. It wasn't done. An individual just expressed himself. Nigerians swallowed it with the hope that something was going to come out of it. Many years after, nothing have come out of it except poverty, hunger, inflation, insecurity. The amazing part of it is that this government has never given account. I mean, look at Abacha, a military leader, withdrew 5% of fuel subsidy and was accountable. He set up a trust fund, handed over the funds, it was managed for the benefit of Nigerians. If we have withdrawn the whole subsidy, Nigerians should have been living like people more than Dubai. Because we understood that huge revenues had come into government. But it is also a known fact that huge revenue and also huge debt burden. Because the borrowings of this government from 2003 to now doubles what Buhari borrowed in 8 years. So the question is, in whose interest is the new tax regime? To now strangulate the remaining life in Nigerians to service those in government, or there is a noble intention of moving the country forward, which is very, very opaque and obscure.
But isn't this a little too late? Because we saw the conversation that preceded the tax regime, before it eventually, was passed. We saw the initial opposition by northern governors, for instance, and then much later, the Nigerian Governors Forum. However, the president said whatever opposition there was against or whatever objections there were to this tax regime should be done on the floor of the National Assembly. There was a public hearing, and eventually there was a compromise, and they were able to get everyone on board, at least those in the National Assembly, to be able to pass through this new tax law. The question a number of people will ask is, where was the national opposition movement when all of these conversations were going on?
Of course, we were not on board then, but there was no compromise. The conspiracy in the process of enacting this tax law is what now gave birth to the national opposition movement.
Conspiracy?
Yes, it's conspiracy.
Why
because
do you say so?
there was indeed no compromise. Now, that conspiracy which was concealed, God has now expressed his presence in favor of Nigerians, because we now know that the entire process is now fraudulent. With the alarm raised by a member of the House of Reps that even the so-called compromise copy of the bill passed had been mutilated on its transit to the villa. And the mutilation of a legislation passed by a National Assembly on transit is a treasonable offense, because it's a usurpation of the constitutional right of the National Assembly. The president only has the right to reject, make observations, and return it to the National Assembly within 30 days. The National Assembly, if convinced with the observation of the president, will make amendment and rescind it. But we now have a cabal, which we have been denying. You can see the activities of the cabal. They have ambushed now a law in transit and mutilated it. Very soon, they will also ambush the Constitution, and they will mutilate it, and they will now coronate certain persons as monarchy, and Nigeria will be thrown into anarchy.
What if the government says the movement is jumping the gun, because they could tomorrow say, well, we're not implementing any policy that was not passed by the National Assembly? And besides, does the movement also think that the National Assembly will look the other way in this matter?
A gun in the hands of a bandit does not require any rule. In fact, you will have to jump the gun, because you know what he will do with the gun. So this movement has followed the antecedents of this government right from the beginning. And we can predict what they will do, because from what we saw and monitored them in the past, they have not disappointed us. So jumping the gun in the circumstance is the most healthy thing to do in favor of Nigerians.
Yeah, but yesterday we understand that a member of the House of Representatives raised some of these concerns on the floor. That will suggest that they are not glossing over the matter. If the FG actually go gazette a wrong copy and to implement a wrong copy, it means that, well, they are keeping their eyes on the ball.
Well, individual members of the National Assembly still have their integrity and they will defend it. But the institution of the National Assembly is captured. So he has raised it and has elected Nigerians. So he has exercised the democratic power. Well, the minority will have a say, but the majority will always have their way.
Okay, let me ask you though, have you read the tax laws?
I have not gone through it, the tax law completely.
Yes, so but what objections do you then have with the law?
In fact, the entire tax law, from the fundamental principle of the tax law, introduce a regime that does not benefit the Nigerian people. Rather, it targets the same political elite who have been enjoying the patronages of the Nigerian state.
It targets political elites.
Yes.
Which you're one of.
I'm not a political elite. I don't know how.
Should you have a problem if it targets?
I don't know how I'm qualified for it. But,
does it target? I mean, the fact that you're on this program, some people say that already, and you're a former minister, or you're a former minister.
Yeah.
You represented the whole of Plateau State in the federal executive cabinet.
Fine.
In that capacity.
Fine.
Already makes you a political elite. And I'm wondering whether or not this battle really about the Nigerian people when you haven't really read the tax laws.
In fact, even if it benefits me as a qualified political elite, according to your definition, the fact that it is against the Nigerian people does not prevent me from fighting.
How is it against the Nigerian people? That's the question I'm asking.
Well, if you look at the entire tax attitude of this government from the beginning, taking the withdrawal of fuel subsidy, the floating of the naira, the increase of electricity tariff, the increase in bank charges, the increase in data. If you summarize all these increases, the highest beneficiaries of this are the common people. Electricity is needed by the common people to power their microeconomy. This has been made impossible for them. Therefore, the principle of this same new tax regime cannot be different from the attitude of this government.
So the basis upon which you oppose this is based on suspicion?
Not at all. A law that has been reduced into writing cannot be suspicious.
No, but you haven't read it.
For me, I've not read all of it, but others have read.
Well, because
others have read.
For those who have
read. Because if others
it,
have not read it, the National Assembly member would have not raised the issue. And mind you, is a member of this group.
Yeah, the person who raised the issue talked about discrepancies. They're two different things.
Of course.
They talked about discrepancies in what they passed and what was gazetted. I mean, clearly, if there will be any conspiracy, it will mean that members of the National Assembly were complicit in foisting a law that was not going to be in favor of Nigerians on Nigerians. But he is now raising an alarm that what has been gazetted and what is making the rounds in the Gazette is not the same thing as what has been passed. Now, we've heard that the Speaker says that matter will be handled today, and a number of Nigerians we're suddenly tuning our eyes there to see what exactly will happen in the National Assembly, and also how the executive arm of government will respond to this. But if what you're saying is that you're suspecting that based on everything that's happened so far in this administration, that all you have seen so far is an increase, an unbearable increase, then you are suspicious that this new law is going to be another increase, a further increase on Nigerians. That is basically the basis of your opposition.
And in fact, on the motion that has been raised, it is completely established that there's even no law at all. Because whatever would have been passed by the National Assembly is not before the public. The mutilated or gazetted copy now is also something that is suspicious. So the entire process of whatever is called now the new tax regime is wrapped in a controversy of suspicion. So nobody will actually say this is what it is.
But what about some of the comments that Mr. Taiwo Ijile has been talking about? We'll just put up a little bit, some of them, so that you could just have a look at it and see if you agree or otherwise about it. He did say only recently that you pay less or no tax if you are in the bottom 98% of income earners. Food will cost less because VAT on food, education, and healthcare will be removed. Small companies will pay 0% corporate tax and will be exempt from VAT. Large companies will pay lower corporate tax and will enjoy VAT credits on their costs. In short, he says, everyone, individuals, SMEs, and large companies benefit from a reduced tax burden. Do you agree with all of this?
My attitude as an individual to anything that this government is saying is that it rules by propaganda. And it is obvious even from this entire process. Because you can see the National Assembly saying something different from the mutilated version are saying something different. So for me, I don't waste my time on whatever this government say, except I see them doing it practically. Because there is nothing they have given Nigerians, whether in writing, that turned out to be exactly the same. I'll give you an example. They offered engagement of Nigerians during the process of the evolution of this tax law. Engagement of Nigerians. And what we saw was the political manipulation of governors by the same federal government. Even when the governors will go before the federal government and say something different, they come out to say another thing differently. So we have been ruled by a communication system of this administration, by this administration, that does not suggest confidence of the citizens. So as a person, all these things they are saying, I do not believe in it, because there is nothing they have said and they have done it.
So the thing is, I mean, you could speak about the politics of it, but they grew because the government got tax consultants, tax professionals to craft and look at all of these laws before they then went on and then came up with what they have now. Did the group equally get tax professionals to also have a look at this and give us their professional perspective on the matter?
No. Well, I don't want to dismiss the industry invested by the professionals in the entire process. But what we have basically done is to raise an alarm. And we will definitely get to that point which you said, because in our next engagement, we intend to recruit more professionals to re-examine this particular piece of legislation very, very well and come up with something very concrete. That is why we ask for the suspension of it.
Yeah, but isn't that press briefing or the presser somehow premature? Or because you have people, if you are calling for the government to suspend it, they will tell you, look, the horse has since bolted from the stable. If it's law, on what basis are we going to suspend it if you can't give us any professional reason or at least tax reasons why we should?
That's why I said it's not even premature. We have raised an alarm. But like I said, the credibility of the entire process, while we were asking for the suspension, the credibility has been...
Which is what? The gazetted part of it?
Thank you. It has been contested.
That's what the National Assembly said they will look at.
If they look at it, and then at the end of the day, establish that the copy has been mutilated, what will be of the legislation?
Can't they simply just gazette the proper one? Does it take 1 year to do that? It doesn't take long, does it?
No. I think you are
assuming that happened.
Yes, you are downplaying the whole thing. Because trust now had been squandered in the whole process. You need to rebuild that trust, because it means most of the things transmitted by the National Assembly, some of them undergo what has happened now. And this might be not the only one that they have been involved in. So we are yet to hear the stories of the mutilation of legislation. And I want the National Assembly not to end only on looking at the tax law, but to also review other sensitive legislation that they have been sent, because it does appear that they would have also suffered the same fate.
So is the group planning to meet anytime soon to see what next?
Of course, we have a plan for regular meetings, as regular as weekly.
But the fear some Nigerians have is that this group will eventually metamorphose into perhaps a political group or political party.
No, it's going to be very difficult, because looking at the background of the people that gather, we are not motivated by mere politics, but but the conviction that we needed to do something. And it's going to be very difficult to get people from this background coming in to agree into a political party, because Some of them are even holding political offices in their party that is in government. So it will be difficult for them to just move and join us because of political convenience.
All right, Mr. Solomon Dalong, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, well, back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. We've got Mr. Lawmaker here with us. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Good to see you again.
Yes, indeed. and good to be back, as a matter of fact. I missed the beat.
We should have put you on the welcoming team.
Again, absolutely.
I should have branched your station in New York if I had known to see what's up.
That would have been exciting.
Okay, well.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
NNDP. Good morning.
NNDPRA appears to, and Dangote matter. You know, when the matter came up, lots of people thought, okay, let's see where this is headed in the first instance. Will there be an investigation? Is he guilty as charged? Or are we going to go with the mantra, innocent until proven guilty? Yeah. But when the whole matter took the turn it took yesterday, it left a lot of people just wondering, what in the world is going on? How do you read this?
Well, I mean, I think that I like the swift response of the president.
Does it mean the man is guilty?
Well, you know, that he needed to step aside, you know.
That's not stepping aside. That is stepping out.
Completely.
Well, you know,
step aside is a suspension. Is,
upon investigation.
Yeah. So those kinds of things, that's a stepping aside. This is out completely.
I agree that it's hard. I meant it in that sense. And the point I was going to say is that, first of all, I think the president acted very swiftly, you know, because besides that very issue that Dangote had raised, I had always said, and Nigerians know, that there are deeper corruption issues in the oil and gas sector, especially the government aspect of it. You know, and you know, we have been hoping that the president will go the whole hog. It's good that, you know, this guy has been asked to leave, you know, but we hope that the issue of investigating exactly what is happening in this particular instance, this specific case, should not terminate, but more importantly, that the president should consider, you know, doing what he did in CBN to NNPC. The kind of corruption that is in that place is quite alarming, even by the statement of anti-corruption agencies who have been looking at the books. So we need the president to go the whole hog and let's have a cleaning up of the oil and gas sector in terms of the corruption that is there.
Well, it's going to be a big ask because there are certain people who will tell you, look, the corruption we talk about is not papering over cracks as some people think it is. Why do you think the NUPRC boss equally was asked to do that?
That's the riddle of the whole thing, you know. And though the Aso Villa painted the stuff as if those guys resigned, they didn't resign. They were asked to leave. You know, especially Mr. Komolafe and a lot of people in the industry. If there is one person that people think is doing some good job, it's Mr. Komolafe. So everybody is at a loss why he was also asked to resign. You know, we are still trying to figure out what it is that happened. I think he still has about 10 months to go, and
so they couldn't wait for 10 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's just 10 months. You should have allowed the guy to finish the good job that he's doing. Everybody's at a loss, you know, what happened to Mr. Komolafe?
There's a conspiracy theory. I mean, well, I don't know if to call it that, but there are those who also think that, wait a minute, shouldn't we look deeper than what's going on? Because in the first instance, we know Mr. Kyari, former GMD of NNPC, to step aside after I had a spat with Mr. Dangote. And then now you got this one happening as well. They think, oh, wait a minute. Doesn't that mean that this fuels all of those, you could call it whatever you will, whether rumor, speculation about monopoly? Because nobody wants a monopoly in this sector.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I don't have any sustained fears that there will be monopoly even in the short term. You know, quite a number of other local refineries are coming up. You know, Boa, the local law one. Nigerians, we're not going to sustain a monopoly, and the market is big enough. I don't have those fears. I think that the issues that Dangote has raised currently are germane to public interest. That you have, a situation where we have a local refinery and we are still actively encouraging importation of something that we all know it's just ridiculous that we are a oil producing country, and for decades we have been doing this business of importing fuel. It doesn't sound good to the ear.
So does that mean that there will be no more, or there should be no more importation of petrol? Because what about NNPC? Would they equally stop importing?
No, I don't think that it ought to be that clean break. But to say that we have to look more into how we supply the local refineries with the crude, that is the direction that we should be going. It doesn't mean that we have to have a clean break. I don't think we can afford a clean break, but that we should be looking at a future, where we find ways to get our crude to be refined locally. It helps the local economy tremendously. Look at what is happening with the fact that we have Dangote refinery. Look at what it has done even to employment, to pricing.
No, it's still pricing,
it's quite...
it's not up to 500 yet. So
it's not getting...
Is that wishful thinking?
Well, who knows? The experts will tell us what the options are. But I think that the president has done very well by saying that, okay, let's remove Farouk. Again, we don't know why Komolafe, I think Komolafe should have been left alone. He has only 10 months to go. But we should find out the end of the matter. Did Farouk, how was he able to sustain that level of funding for his children?
Assuming he did.
Assuming he did. We have a very, what lawyers we call a prima facie case, so to speak, with the information that Mr. Dangote has given us. So we hope that the fact that he's been asked to leave doesn't mean that the case itself is going to die. It shouldn't.
Well, I guess that's a hope of many Nigerians, that case doesn't die, and that this resignation was not an attempt to kill the case, because if he has been unfairly accused, it will also be in his best interest for this investigation to be successfully done, and his name cleared, assuming he were falsely accused or unfairly accused.
Absolutely.
I'm just a little curious though, because now new people have been appointed.
Yeah.
And now, it would seem, it's very unclear what Nigeria really wants. Whether they intend to...
Or what Mr. Dangote wants.
Yeah. no, what Nigeria. I think it's very important for government to say very clearly what it expects of its regulator. Because if the idea is that, look, we're also going to be given soft landing to our own internal... that's the argument that you're making, that whatever it is that is happening in-house, we should prioritize that. Enough Nigerians to support that. This is a $20 billion investment that has been put down by a single individual, more or less. And that needs to be encouraged. As you said, many more investments are coming up. And they are going to be looking at the person that has gone before them and how you've treated that person to know whether this is something that you want to continue. At the same time, though, the Petroleum Industry Act is something that has been passed and also needs to be enforced. And I'm just wondering the job before the new people that have now been nominated, because they also have to be cleared by the National Assembly before, they can resume their positions if they are cleared by the National Assembly. What do you think will need to be before these people? Because the manner of battles that we've seen in the last couple of years have left quite a number of Nigerians befuddled. Mr. Dangote has never been as, as in the eye of the media as he has been in the last 1 year or so. We saw members of the National Assembly visiting the refinery. We saw all manner of people visiting the refinery, and every time a press conference was done, I can't count how many times now he's done this press conference. And for him to go to this level, he became a whistleblower. Look, this is what is happening now. A number of Nigerians will say, what exactly do you think will be the expectations for the next set of people who are going to be occupying this very sensitive position of having to regulate this particular industry, given the intricacies that are there?
Well, I think that there are several issues, and I'm not sure that we have the time to unpack it. But what I think is the priority, in my view, is that we need to raise the level of production of, our output in terms of crude. I think we've been doing 1.4, 1.6, which is why, again, the removal of Mr. Komolafe is quite curious, because he has designed, quite a few policy initiatives around, significant ramping up of the production levels, of crude. Now, we also have a huge challenge of a lot of forward sales of Nigeria's crude, that has been done in the past, by Melekiari's time, even, I guess, beyond that time, which means that there is a limit to the supply of crude to local companies. It's part of the things that NNPC was juggling even in their initial controversies with Mr. Dangote. So I think one of the things that we need to get the regulators to do is to significantly ramp up local production of crude.
If we can wrap up in 30 seconds, talk about this tainted permit, if you will. We were sent this enrollment of order between Mr. Israel Joe and the first respondent, the IGP of police, Nigeria Police Force, Commissioner of Police, Delta State Police Command, and appeared the CTC here indicating that they granted the request that the planned decision to implement the tainted permit. They said, no, you cannot.
I think the police should enforce the law. And the law says that if you go to court, you let the court finish the case before you implement. The police should hold on. Whatever it is that he wants to do, there is a subsisting court case. Let the court finish the matter and let us follow the due process. The police should not be in a hurry to implement this thing. They should follow the law. They are a law enforcement agency.
Thank you for coming on, Lalo Akonde. That is the show today as well. Well, thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Train Balonisov. Goodbye.
I'm counting down to Christmas now. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf on top of the Eyes Business Morning.